Hello, welcome back to Aetheral Space 14.12. Mignardise, we are back.
Yeah, what is Mignardise?
It's the dessert's dessert.
Is that real?
Yeah.
Is this the last chapter of the arc?
No, there's going to be some more.
How many courses are there?
These will not be courses going forward. It'll be a single chapter in parts from here on.
Ooh. What's the final chapter? I'm curious.
A single chapter in parts, I said. There'll be a part 1, part 2, that sort of thing.
Right, but I'm curious what the last one will be named. Mignardise. 1802. Wow, Wu Ming said, spying the fireworks from his perch. Things are getting pretty crazy down there, huh? Mariloko didn't mince words. I'm going, he said, and fired himself towards the shopping center using Unchained. Wu Ming whistled as he watched him... I lost my place, sorry.
I'm so fucking sorry, dude.
Wu Ming whistled as he watched him go. The purple bullet slammed into one of the building's walls, but he doubted that would slow the caveman down any. He was made of sterner stuff. As for me, Wu Ming chuckled, turning his back on the battlefield, I'm on babysitting duty. Whistling idly, he hopped off the top of the skyscraper and dropped down to the balcony where the others are positioned. I assume were positioned.
Yeah, they're still there, actually, are.
Yeah. Akhlima was still lingering in a corner, while Nail stood guard. Gregory, for his part, seemed to have skedaddled at some point. Wu Ming didn't expect anyone would miss him. How we looking? Wu Ming grinned, planting his hands on his hips. I half expect him to say Victor Nation.
How we doing? Wu Ming Nation.
How we looking, Wu Ming Nation?
He would say that.
He would. Haven't spotted anyone yet, Nail muttered, dull red eyes scanning the horizon. How are we getting inside that place? Well, Grandpa's just gone for it, Wu Ming said, but I'm thinking we want to go for a more subtle approach. Once old Musashi finds out we've got Akhlima with us, he won't be able to just sit there, so that's when we... Akhlima interrupted. I don't want to see Musashi. Wu Ming blinked. Okay. I don't want to see Musashi, Akhlima repeated. Yeah, cool, he replied. The stairs are right there, though. Akhlima narrowed her eyes. You're not seriously letting me go, she said suspiciously. Nail looked at him too, his mouth a flat line of disapproval. It seemed he didn't approve. Giving up a potential advantage was probably anathema to a pragmatic gentleman like him. But hey, sometimes that was how life went. Let you go? Wu Ming frowned at Akhlima, ignoring Nail. I didn't have you in the first place. I'm being serious. You can just leave if you feel like it. Go ahead. For a second, Akhlima didn't move. Clearly, she still had her doubts, but Wu Ming was fully serious. 100%, 10 out of 10, 2 thumbs up, 5 stars. Plans were like plates in a way. It was fun to juggle them, but if they ended up breaking on the floor, it was no biggie. Finally, she seemed to realize that Wu Ming was being serious, and she took a step towards the stairs. That was when it happened. That was when Wu Ming was surprised for the first time in a very long while. A black dog was sitting next to Akhlima. It grinned in all directions, with a face that had been stretched into humanity and crushed into a beast. Fingered claws tapped languidly against the rooftop, eyes shining with dead light narrowed maliciously. One moment it was not there, and the next it was, oozing out of the rooftop's corner like it was printed into existence. It met Wu Ming's gaze as if mocking him, and if that was the case, it was right to. It wasn't like Wu Ming hadn't been expecting something to appear. Since he'd noticed the ability tracking Akhlima, he'd been ready for it to activate, but still... When it had finally appeared, it had somehow caught him off guard. Wu Ming blinked. The beast reached for Akhlima, and... Guardian Entity! Hachiman! Its head exploded into shadows. In an instant, Nail Mandarin had manifested as Guardian Entity and lanced right through the skull of the creature. It dispersed into black smoke, flying off in all directions. Akhlima yelped, jumping back from the spot where the creature had appeared. Hachiman flipped its wooden spear in its hands as Nail glanced back at Wu Ming. Whatever that thing was... he said seriously. I doubt that killed it. We need to move from this. Blood sprayed. Again, it had been the work of an instant, and again it caught everyone there off guard. The head of the creature had suddenly emerged from a single point on Nail's boot and tore his heel out, sending him down towards the ground. Before he could even finish falling, the head was emerging once more, this time from his hand, from one of his fingernails, and lunging for his throat. Well, Wu Ming had seen enough. Lengthwise guillotine! Before the shadow jaws could make contact, Wu Ming cut them in half with a swing of his string, and once again they dissipated into shadow. It seemed this wasn't the sort of thing that could be killed by cutting it. Interesting, great, fantastic! He was into it! As Nail finally dropped to the ground, roaring in pain and clutching his ravaged foot, Wu Ming smirked. Sorry, friend, but that's the last time you catch me off guard. Oh my god. Rainbow Web! Is he doing the fucking 20-meter emerald splash?
Basically.
Your ability, Wu Ming said, crossing his arms, is to travel and manifest through sharp angles. I'd guess corners, specifically. First the corner of this balcony, then the corner of this guy's bootstrap, then the corner of his fingernail. So long as I know that, and I know who your next target is, I can make a pretty good guess where you're coming from. He looked over his shoulder, smiling. There we go, he said. I've never liked gambling, you know. I just can't seem to lose. The beast hung in the air, inches away from Wu Ming, suspended by a web of shining kaleidoscope strings. As Wu Ming had expected, it had leapt out from the opposite corner of the balcony, seeking to attack him from his blind spot, and so it had fallen into his trap. It struggled and snarled in its bindings, but the strings were tight and strong. It wouldn't be getting free any time soon. It glared at Wu Ming with wide eyes of primal hatred. Now then, he purred. Let's get a better look at you. Sorry, one moment. Your Majesty, said Praetorian One, floating over the kingdom of war. My principality, if you would. This is a late-night appointment I'm up against. Are you serious? Is that a real line?
Yeah.
This is late-night appointment we're dealing with. Send me an ability, please. Downloading ability. Principality, blue. A blue halo appeared floating over Praetorian One's head, and with it came knowledge. Sword techniques refined over hundreds of years, dissipating into his body as muscle memory, so potent it was as if he'd done the training himself. Without the principality, he was a formidable warrior. With it, he was a veritable sword saint. White feathered wings flapped in the air as Praetorian One inspected the area below. Appointment continued to live up to his reputation. Even after being run through with dignity, he'd managed to tear himself free and retreat into the construction fields. Still, the blow had done its work. Dignity's thorns would manifest inside Appointment's body from the original point of injury outwards. Even if Praetorian One didn't do anything, Appointment would drop dead all on its own. But he wasn't one to pass victory into the hands of time. That was why he dispatched 2 and 3 to pursue Appointment, and that was why he would act now. Each time Praetorian One's wings flapped, they scattered glowing white feathers that hung in the air. Indeed, the sky above the shopping center was filled with them now, like the stars had been pulled in from the sky. Needless to say, they weren't for decoration. Praetorian One raised a hand, and the feathers moved to obey him, flitting through the air to gather just above his palm. Deployed alone, they were strong enough to melt through stone and flesh, but that wouldn't be enough to deal with Appointment. He deserved better. He was so special, after all. The feathers gathered and gathered, consolidating until they formed a shining javelin of starlight, taller than Praetorian One himself. Sorry, 1 second. He took hold of it in a clawed hand and aimed down to the complex Appointment had retreated into. Schedule breaker, Praetorian One scoffed. Let me show you what real light looks like. He hurled the javelin, carving a line of white across the sky, and watched in satisfaction as the building below erupted into heaven's wrath. Wu Ming strode forward, ignoring the pillar of white light suddenly stretching into the sky behind him. Shadows danced across his face as a thin smile spread across his lips. For the briefest of instants, he was the image of a reaper. Wow, you're a creepy little guy, huh? He said, inspecting his bound quarry. 10 out of 10 on the sleep paralysis aesthetic, I'll give you that. What's your deal? For its part, the beast had stopped thrashing in its restraints. Instead, it was just staring at Aklima with those empty white eyes, unblinking. Wu Ming frowned as he squatted down next to it, following its gaze to the girl. He rubbed his chin and clicked his tongue. As I thought, looks like it's pretty pissed off at you, kiddo, he said. What the hell is it? Aklima said. That was a weird read. What the hell is it? Aklima said, her face pale, her back pressed against the furthest wall. You said you took out the Kennel Master, right? Wu Ming asked. Well, looks to me like this faithful pooch has come for revenge. A post-death ability, if I had to wager, triggered after you released Curse Hand. You might want to keep it running on corpses in the future. Bastard! Wu Ming blinked as he recalled. Right. Nail's heel had been torn out. He was on the ground, clutching his foot, face red from pain and anger. Slowly he got up, Hachiman supporting him on one shoulder. His red eyes narrowed as he glared at Wu Ming. Next time, he growled, don't use me as your guinea pig. That hurt. I'll kill you. Sorry, Wu Ming chuckled. Dr. Stitches! With that simple command, a sequence of strings leapt out of Wu Ming's index finger, wrapping around Nail's injured foot and stitching shut the wound. The young man nodded in begrudging gratitude. Now, the Skirrent said, looking over at the trapped beast. I mean, he's more of an awakening than a Skirrent, right?
No, that's Nail talking.
Oh. Now, the Skirrent said, looking over at the trapped beast. How about we finish this thing? Twang! Wu Ming blinked. Huh? Twang! Wu Ming looked. Twang! Wu Ming grinned. For real? Snap! The creature broke free. Shadows exploded across the rooftop like smog as the beast launched attacks in every direction, claws and jaws slashing and biting at everything in sight. For their part, Wu Ming's companions responded quickly. Aklima just fled down the stairs, while Nail had his guardian entity hurl his body out of the attack zone. Wu Ming alone remained standing where he was, deflecting the incoming blows with split-second string barriers. Even when I counterattack, Wu Ming observed in the midst of his maddened dance, it doesn't actually do any damage to this thing. It's the same as when Hachiman stabbed it before. Since it's made of shadows, all a physical attack can do is disperse it, huh? In that case, Starlight Swing! Like he was throwing out a yo-yo, Wu Ming flipped his finger, and a string of pure white light whipped forward, slashing at the creature's claws and attacked. This time, the shadows did not disperse. This time, they bled. The monster screeched in pain and leapt backwards once, twice, thrice, until it was perched right on the edge of the building. Wu Ming's strike had cut it right between two fingers, and now it held that bleeding wound up to its face, inspecting it. The pain had been momentary. Now it seemed more curious than anything else. It cocked its head to such a degree that it turned a full 360 degrees, returning to its original position, before looking back up at Wu Ming. Hurts, it said, in a soft but malicious voice. Bastard. Oh? Wu Ming replied, hands on his hips. You can talk. Well, it was learning to talk anyway. The words came out haltingly, right on the edge of stuttering, like it was a malfunctioning machine. Wu Ming guessed that made sense. If this was a post-mortem ability of the Kennel Masters, that meant this entity had only existed for about half a day now. Hell, Wu Ming supposed that made it an extremely quick learner, if anything. The creature didn't respond to Wu Ming's question. Instead, it just continued to turn its hand, inspecting its wound from various angles, before flicking its wrist and snapping the cut short. Come on, it's no fun without some dirty talk, Wu Ming chuckled. I'm Wu Ming. What's your name? The creature just stared at him. Come on. It grumbled for a second. Then, Black Dog. Oh, Black Dog? That's a pretty generic name, but I guess I've got no right to... Oops, it's killing me. Black Dog took advantage of Wu Ming's momentary distraction. In an instant, its head had swelled to enormous proportions, covering the distance between it and Wu Ming and snapping, taking half the rooftop with it. I'm imagining that scene when Sukuna does like pretend to be Megami. The head. Wu Ming whistled as he leapt back, hopping between chunks of rubble as they flew through the air. Nice! He laughed into the crisp night air. You tried to get me talking there, didn't you? I like it. 10 out of 10. A little clumsy, but you've got the spirit. Finish. Black Dog growled, its arms lashing through the air like tentacles as it tried to bat Wu Ming out of existence. Finish this thing. Maybe this thing wasn't as smart as Wu Ming had hoped. Everything it was saying was just it repeating something it had heard. Bastard, that hurts, finish this thing. Even if it was using those words in new contexts, the fact it couldn't think of things to say on its own didn't bode well for its imagination. Sorry, my throat is like... I really want to finish it, but my throat's dead. Can you...
No problem. It looked like you'd bet poorly again. If this was an enemy that would just attack without strategy, he'd be better off going after whichever bounty hunter had created that geyser of light. Best to wrap things up here quickly. Starlight shot. The same shining string from before, bundled together into tiny balls, fired as bullets. They zipped through the air, popping perfect holes into the shifting shadows before him, sending blood spraying down the side of the building. Black Dog screeched with force enough to vibrate the air, lashing out with its arms even faster, but these frenzied blows were even easier to dodge. It raised one fist high up into the air, arms stretching out absurdly further, and then that fist inflated to the size of a car. Just from looking at it, Wu Ming could tell a direct hit would turn a human body to pulp. Unfortunately for Black Dog, it wouldn't be getting so much as an indirect hit. Wu Ming pulled himself backwards by twin strings just as the fist came down, utterly decimating what was left of the rooftop. Hopefully, Nail and the Climber had managed to fully get away before that, but if they hadn't, Wu Ming guessed that was just how their lives ended. His attention was elsewhere. The strings pulled him all the way to the next building along, his feet landing on the window as he stood up horizontally, secured to the glass by fibres in his feet. Looking up, across to his original location where Black Dog was, he raised both hands and cried, "Starlight's cannon!" A bundle of bright string that dwarfed Wu Ming's own body fired forth and slammed into Black Dog, obliterating its form and painting the skyscraper in vivid red blood. Wu Ming slapped his hands together, licking his lips. That had been perhaps a bit more gruesome than he'd intended, but I had to make it look convincing, right? He said, pointing his finger at the incoming attack. As expected, Black Dog had retreated part of its body into a corner before the attack struck, and now its head was lunging forth from the corner of the window pane, aiming to bite down on Wu Ming's throat. A starlight shot easily popped its skull, but then another set of jaws sank into Wu Ming's leg. He blinked. Eh? Off guard. 3 times in one night. Is this really okay? A second head had emerged from another corner of the window pane, launching another attack while Wu Ming had been smugly responding to the forest. It tore greedily at his leg, severing the thread-woven limb and sending it flying off. Starlight shower! A web of shining strings detonated all around Wu Ming like a set of radiant firecrackers, banishing the shadowy head of the Black Dog for a moment. He used that opportunity to escape, flipping end over end up the surface of the building. As he moved, however, he was pursued. Heads without end. This building was lined with windows, and each window had 4 corners, and from each of those corners emerged another head of the Black Dog, lunging and snapping at Wu Ming as he tried to escape them. He was good, but he had to admit that this thing was good too. Escaping unscathed was not possible. Chunks of Wu Ming's body were torn away while he moved, wounds inflicted that would surely have been fatal for a man of flesh and blood. Even with the constant attacks, though, he was able to reach the roof. He was able to reach the roof, weaving new limbs and flesh into existence as he landed. He caught his breath in what he knew was a precious moment of peace. This enemy, he'd taken it too lightly. He wasn't able to do all this a second ago. Back then, it was definitely a movement power, not one that produced new body parts from corners. It modified its abilities according to the demands of the situation, which means it's like me, a black dog with 1,000 powers.
Oh no.
The 4 corners of the rooftop erupted into dancing shadows, and 4 gargantuan heads emerged from them, each much larger than the one that had ravaged the other building. A maintained starlight shower formed a barrier to defend against their attacks, but that still meant Wu Ming was trapped between the 4 of them. He held his hands out to maintain the abilities he considered his next move. How did this ability work now? Clearly, destroying these heads wasn't actually harming Black Dog anymore, since more attacks just kept coming. That suggested there was a main body somewhere, launching these attacks remotely. If he could just locate that, he could win. Wu Ming took a step backwards, and bumped right into that main body. So slow.
Oh.
Black Dog had risen up to its feet, standing like a human, and just like that, it was twice Wu Ming's height. For impromptu senses, Wu Ming saw it look down at him, and saw it pull its hand back to strike him. In the second it took Wu Ming to whirl around, in the second it took for that backhand to connect, he considered one thing. Not once since the battle started had anyone said the words, "so slow." Oh, this is bad, actually.
Oh no, even with his life at risk, Wu Ming can't stop memeing. Nobody. This could be the end. This is the strongest black dog with 1,000 abilities. Alright, so I want to ask you a question.
Wu Ming, kill it now!
and Wu Ming looks like just enough XP.
You if it's a game, you can see it like go level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. It's like, stop stalling!
You know what Black Dog is?
Mm-hmm.
He's the character you talk about where it's like, I spawned as the shittiest goblin, but then I just got all the powers. That's him. Alright, so I have a question before we get to the other questions. So, I was talking in Special Officers Lounge, and we learned that a lot of characters had names that were, like, surprisingly fitting or clever. Or, like, had, like, little nods. Like, for example, I think Wu Ming in Chinese is anonymous, which I assume has to do with his whole disguise shtick.
It's also not his real name, so...
Oh, what's his real name?
He doesn't use it. It's insignificant.
Oh, fair enough. And I know you mentioned that some names you think about, others or whatever. I was curious, what are some of the names you're most proud of, and why?
A climber is one I'm pretty proud of. I like the way it bangs.
That's from the Bible, right?
Yeah, it's like from an apocrypha of it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's like a daughter of Cain or Abel or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I liked that reference, that whole the Cadman Supreme theme. I like the way it fit in there. Avaman, because there was some discussion about Avaman, but that is one where it doesn't have an actual meaning, but I like the way it sounds, and it does fit into that sort of dynamic of where he's like an angel, because he's the announcer.
Yeah, I like that. Any others?
Specifically, I like Atoy Musashi and Balte Kojiro because it's a reference to Kojiro and Musashi from Samurai, who were samurais and rivals.
I thought so. So
I was pretty proud
because
of that.
I was pretty sure Musashi was Musashi because Musashi's like a famous samurai, but also it's like the Japanese word for warrior. And I was like, but what's Kojiro? That's got to be something too.
Yeah, it's a slight modification of spelling of like Kojiro.
Well played. All right, and now we have some questions from the fans. Let me grab.
And like you pointed out, Eli Masadora is named after a city from Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, I looked him up first, and I was like, God damn it! You fucking fry was the only thing that showed up for Masadora. Rurum asks... Oh, no, I already did that. Sorry, Lan asks, if Cadman was a throwback, why isn't Acclama a pugnant?
You see, the reason for that is that she's also a throwback.
Oh. Okay.
Who would have thought it?
Wiser Than You asks, have there been any Supremes who insisted people use their actual names during their lifetime, besides the part of Azez's before it got codified?
No.
Lan asks, why isn't AI better? Is it a cultural thing, or is the tech too hard?
They're pretty good, I would say. In the Final Church, you've got like a whole section run by AIs that are so good that no one realizes there are AIs.
Damn. Alright, and with that, I think that's all our questions.
I don't think they're doing too badly.
Alright, well thank you for your time, and thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
And I was going to say, a lot of if we go artificial intelligence, it does not necessarily have to be a computer. There's Aether abilities that are essentially artificial intelligences, and they're pretty indistinguishable.
That's true. We've got some good ones as well. Very, very interesting. Alright, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye!